Rhaenyra Targaryen, heir to the Iron Throne.
I've never done a part that I've shared with an actor before. Even when you're not kind of watching that work, you are building something together. Rhaenyra is sort of at odds with the gender she's born into. She grows up as the decentered child. She's female, so no one expects her to have any power. But what I love is, again, centering, well, what is a patriarchal culture and what it means as a female character to try and work in opposition to that. We meet a Rhaenyra who is bold and self-assured and is initially powerful in the way that she's different. She knows her difference. I think the thing that I adore about it is that it's so rooted in the domestic and the familial. It's a giant show, and yet it sort of stays on the ground. I mean, the things that we deal with are like commonalities in like most people's lives. We're talking about love and death, jealousy and aspiration, and it's reflected in like a beautifully written script.
I have only ever defended you!
10 years you've been king, and yet not once have you asked me to be your hand.
Why would I do that?
Because I'm your brother. I play Prince Daemon Targaryen. He's the sort of prince of the realm, really. And he's very much an outsider. He treads on the outskirts of everything and everyone. Much of King's Landing is seen by the small folk as lawless and terrifying. Daemon's all swords and knives, really. He's also a dragon rider. He has a dragon called Caraxes. He has a great affiliation and love and admiration for his brother, the king. But there's a sort of deep, dark history that surrounds them. I've only ever spoken the truth. And the blood of the dragon runs thick. He's a sort of reluctant one. I think he's interested in chaos. I think he survives in chaos quite well. It's not as though he wants to be king of the land or any of that. I think he's just pretending and trying to make everyone angry. House of the Dragon is about war, love, rebellion, and deceit. In many ways, it sort of feels at times like a big tragedy, constantly waiting to sort of get worse.
When I look at the fine knights in these lists, I see a group without equal. May the luck of the Seven shine upon all combatants. Viserys is a young man when we meet him, and he's crowned the new king. Jaehaerys, the king that went before him, was a peacetime king. Viserys feels a duty to honor that. Viserys struggles with being the king. You're trying to please everybody and you can't. It's an impossible task. You're dealing with conflicts and trying to keep it peaceful. He has an awareness of just how dangerous it is to sit on the Iron Throne, because being on that throne makes you a target, and everybody's conspiring for that seat. And that's something he instills in Rhaenyra, his daughter, because Viserys is very protective of Rhaenyra and can see her potential to be a great ruler.
The idea that we control the dragons is an illusion.
Viserys believes that the Targaryens wouldn't be the power that they are if they didn't have dragons. And he understands that people fears them because of this power. He isn't just trying to be the king and keep the kingdoms at peace. Viserys' motivation is making sure that the Targaryens stay on that throne. It's been a really great journey working with everybody. And it's been great personalities on it, supportive personalities. And when all the elements come together, the show is absolutely amazing.
Such matters must be discussed with a small council.
That is what I'm doing. So, what is your advice, dear Otto?
Otto Hightower is from a very old, wealthy, powerful household who have been front and center of politics for hundreds of years.
If those shipping lanes should fall, it will beggar our ports.
The Crown has heard your report, Lord Corlys, and takes it under advisement. He's the King's hand, so he's very close to the King. He's an advisor to the King. He has an eye on everything. I think more than anyone, Otto knows what's going on Anywhere in the kingdom at any given place, he has a vast network of spies. In the modern sense, his room would have a wall of televisions.
My darling.
He is a father. He's constantly struggling between his duties and his grieving interior as a father.
Tráilers.
Why
Visita
do
mi
you
canal.
destroy yourself?
There's an ambiguity around his motivations and intentions. It's a tough job.
Your Grace, this is the last thing any of us wish to discuss at this dark hour, but I consider the matter urgent.
What matter?
That of your succession.
You know, a show like this is such a big, kind of sprawling metropolis, by necessity. And we've really kind of created this little community, that is really supportive and fun, showing up for that each day. That's been a joy. I've laughed so heartily, so often. That's never a bad thing.
Cyrax is growing quickly. She'll soon be as large as Caraxes.
That's almost large enough to settle too.
I'm quite content as a spectator. Thank you.
Alison and Rhaenyra, they're best friends. I think that they are the only two people who can truly understand each other because they both have very similar backgrounds, and because of their backgrounds, they're isolated. So they really lean on each other, and we meet them at the peak of their friendship.
Alison is very timid. She's a very sensitive soul, but she has this anger that gets pent up.
Why do you destroy yourself?
She is a product of the patriarchy, and throughout the series, she becomes more acutely aware of where she fits in the world. Alison and Rhaenyra are definitely polar opposites when we first meet them, but as the series goes on, I think you see that they're more similar than you think they are. They've been brought up together almost like sisters.
Rhaenyra is strong-minded, she's smart, I think she's underestimated, and she's perceived as someone who's bratty and someone who's kind of asking for too much.
You will lie in this bed soon enough, Rhaenyra. This discomfort is how we serve the realm.
I'd rather serve as a knight and ride to battle in glory. She goes through all the feelings and emotions of puberty and kind of realizing that she can't fight and she can't just be angry at the world. She has to either find a way to solve it or find a way to play with it and outsmart it. So we kind of see her go through that journey and fight all those internal and external battles.
Coming on to House of Dragon, it's overwhelming at first, but I love it. It's so cool.
And I just remember going for a take and being like, first take on Game of Thrones. It's exciting, but it's also terrifying, but in a good way, like a roller coaster,
For centuries, House Velaryon had to scratch out an existence from the sea. When I ascended the Driftwood throne, I knew what I wanted. So I went out and seized it. When we first meet Corlys, he's in Viserys' small council. 4 ships have now been lost. He's quite a sort of stern character.
What is to be done about my ships and my men?
Corlys is a man of action. He has an incredible ambition. He doesn't have much patience for fools. The Velaryons were one of the first ones to settle in Westeros. They control the greatest and strongest fleet. To elude a storm, you can either sail into it or around it. But you must never await its coming. The Sea Snake is the richest man and an accomplished sailor, so he's a great ally to have. His wife, Rhaenys, is also known as the Queen Who Never Was.
The Prince Viserys Targaryen.
Ever since my name was read by the Great Council, I have felt Corlys Velaryon's envious gaze staring at me.
It was between Viserys and Rhaenys. He felt it should have been his wife, and he's never really forgotten that.
Rhaenys was the only child of Jaehaerys' eldest son. She had a strong claim at the Great Council.
Legacy, getting back in line to the throne, it's the thing that keeps Corlys awake at night. What I've liked most about this show is actually getting to know all these people. Everybody's just so lovely. I'm glad that I'm part of opening up this Westeros universe.
Lord of the Tide.
It's been an absolute joy.
When I'm queen, I will create a new order.
But the men of the realm already had their opportunity to appoint a ruling queen at the Great Council, and they denied it.
They denied you, Princess Rhaenys.
As far as I'm concerned, she was first in line to the throne. However, because of being a woman, she was passed over for her younger cousin, Viserys, who was made king.
Prince Viserys Targaryen.
As a result of that, she is given this title of the queen who never was. She should have been queen, but she was never crowned, which puts her in a very difficult position.
I would humbly ask for the favor of the queen who never was.
To be denied that and to be role-less is, unfortunately, a story that is so familiar for so many women. As Rhaenys knows, it's a game of survival. She's quite headstrong, smart, quite sort of intense, because the core of any Targaryen is a dragon. I hope the fans get everything that they got out of Game of Thrones and more. More dragons.
Men would sooner put the realm to the torch than see a woman ascend the Iron Throne.
What do you know about this Kristen Cole?
I really couldn't say.
Kristen Cole is a low-born knight who started as the steward to the Lord of Blackhaven and ends up becoming someone with a great deal of power, but not a lot of knowledge as to how to use that power. Kristen might have the chance to make something out of himself in a world that values family name and connections to get you where you need to go, and he doesn't have a strong family name or any connections, so his is down to pure hard work and his ability as a fighter. The first time I put on the armor, I just remember everyone saying, "Oh, you look really muscular," which I'm not. But I felt good about people saying that. To have something that's so form-fitting and rigid, it sort of makes you assume a posture that I found very helpful. I've been a massive fan of the actors on the show beforehand, so I felt very lucky to be there amongst them. It's Game of Thrones, isn't it? I mean, just one of those things I think you can't say no.
Y tus trailers, visita mi canal.
The first day we shot both of Masaria's episode 1 scenes, I remember just feeling completely like, oh my god, I'm in Game of Thrones. I'm Sonoya Mizuno and I play Masaria on House of the Dragon. Masaria is a fighter. She knows how to survive. She has incredible street smarts and a kind of sixth sense and emotional intelligence that really only comes from having a very difficult life. It's been so interesting and fun to play someone who has that deep inside her, but still is growing and changing as a person.
I didn't come into your service wanting gold, the power, the station. I came to you to be liberated.
When we meet Masaria with Daemon, she has a special relationship with him, and I think that partly comes from her not feeling afraid of him because they just kind of get each other on a kind of deep level. Also, I think there's something seductive about being that close to the power because there's something about Masaria which is very ambitious. I think that people are going to respond to the drama and how it unfolds quite unexpectedly in the way that Game of Thrones, the original show, also did. I also feel like we're creating something new. It takes it to another level. There's a depth to it that you wouldn't expect. Mostly I just feel very excited to be a part of it, and I'm very curious to see what people think.